All right, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Coconut Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas, with my co-host, Anthony. You can call me Tom for short. And we're going to be talking about a lot of different stuff today.
Yeah, we are.
So this so this podcast is going to be focused a lot around politics, what our thoughts and opinions are regarding politics, society in general. We're going to really make a wide range of topics of discussion here for the podcast moving forward. So, Anthony, what words do you have to start the journey of our podcast?
Well, I'd just like to say we're just some guys. Take our opinions with grains of salt, as many as you'd like. But nonetheless,
Not mine though. I'm right.
We have very strong opinions.
Yeah, we're probably two of the most stubborn people that you'll ever interact with in your entire life. But we do like to base what we say in some form of evidence. We are very anti going with vibes.
Yeah, I'm a big
That is
believer.
not how we operate. So we use actual evidence to base our opinions around.
I'm a big believer in data, facts, figures. I like statistics. I have a background in computer science and tech. So that's sort of where I'm coming from with this. I am also anti-vibes.
Yeah, and now that we're talking about our backgrounds, I also have a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. So one of my favorite passions in life is reading research on end, and not even just related to specifically the realm of psychology. I just love research, period. I read it for fun. I know I'm a fucking nerd, but that's just how it is. That's who I am. You caught me. That's who I am. Push me in the mud, why don't you?
Loser, nerd, ooh.
Yeah, whatever. They called me Four Eyes, and I took pride in it. All right. So another thing that we wanted to discuss is that we really wanted our opinions on this podcast to be kind of our raw, unfiltered takes on whatever we're talking about. So one of the things that we decided to do was go by anonymous names. We're doing this podcast completely anonymous. The names that you hear us use are not our real names because we want to be protected. So if we ever have a scandalous opinion, people can't call our places of work and try to get us fired and all that kind of foolishness. So these aren't our real names, folks. Give up hope now, all ye who enter here. But we wanted to really be able to give people an unfiltered look at what we think, unadulterated even.
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is censor ourselves and really lie to the audience, right? Because if we are giving you anything less than our unfiltered, raw takes, we are lying to you in that case. So, we want to be truthful with you all. We want to tell you what we really think.
Yeah, and while I am a Machiavellian at heart, I don't think that this is the time and place for it. Unless you want me to be. I mean, let me know in comments and messages. Just tell me you want me to really lie to your face. But just, we're trying to be as honest and open as possible here. But I think we've had enough banter here where we're running on 4 minutes of just talking at these poor people. Let's go directly into our topic of today. Anthony, I'm going to let you go ahead and get started.
Well, Tom, I just want to tell you, I am extremely coconut pilled right now. You might guess that as far as the name of our podcast here. But I'm unburdened by what has been, and I exist in the context of all that came before me. I love Kamala Harris. I always have loved Kamala Harris. I actually, believe it or not, I was one of the few. I supported her in 2020, in the 2020 primary. One of the few, the brave.
Oh, man, that's spicy. I didn't know that.
Well, I did.
Oh, dude. Oh, no. What have I gotten myself into?
I did, and guess what? When she did that line about the buses and being that girl on the bus to Biden,
yeah,
I thought that was so fucking hype.
Well, that was baller. She dunked on him there.
She did dunk. That was a grade A primo dunking. But
yeah, she dropped the mic on his ass on that line. That was a good one. I've always had a certain amount of respect for Kamala Harris, not because I think that she's the best candidate in the universe or her policies are particularly good or anything like that, but because her entire life she's kind of fought a little bit of an uphill battle.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like you just brought up, she had to fight for busing to go to school. So she really didn't she wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth is kind of the point that I'm trying to make here. And I always kind of have a little bit of extra respect for people who bite and claw their way into a position of power. It's what you want to see, honestly, from a politician in the US.
So for me, it's a bit simpler than that. Um, she probably has this reputation as being an extremely liberal senator when she was in Congress. In fact, I believe don't quote me on the exact name of the agency, but some organization rated her the most progressive senator in Congress. Even more progressive than Bernie Sanders, who is only one spot above her. But I actually have always found her to be sane and a moderate. And I think that was true in California. Compare her to some of the other candidates that she ran against, and she did run in a crowded field there. I liked her stance on Medicare for All when she was running in the primary, which is that, she didn't necessarily want Medicare for All until she was forced into that position from the left by Bernie Sanders. She was more of a public option person, which is kind of where I sit.
Me too.
Yeah, and
I'm big public option.
I like that she's a prosecutor. I like that she's tough on crime. I like that she tried to tackle truancy in California. I think truancy is way worse than we make it sound.
We're going to definitely argue on that one.
Okay, I can't wait. But yeah, I really like her record, and she might not have had a good chance or a good opportunity to prove herself on the national stage. But I think she's more than capable, and I think she has a good chance of winning.
Yeah, I think she has a really good chance of winning too. So there's going to be multiple things that we're probably going to have to cover. One of the topics that you might hear us cover frequently is going to be what's your general opinion on X policy specifically, not related to a person per se, but you're also going to hear us talk about the news and current events and stuff like that. This is what I would probably say is more of a current events type story. Because Kamala is hot right now.
Oh, yeah.
Red hot.
Oh, yeah.
Kamala, she is getting close to the sun. You have to measure her in Kelvin right now. And I'm happy to see it, honestly, because one of the biggest detractors for voters going into this election season is that they were voting for people that were just so goddamn old, man. They just weren't old. They're both boring as hell. They're not exciting. Nobody really wants to vote for either of them. I was actually reading a Pew Research poll that I think it was something like 56% of all Americans wanted both of the candidates to be replaced on the ticket.
Oof.
Going into this. They didn't want Biden and they didn't want Trump on the ticket. Both of them. And it was bipartisan as well. It wasn't like Republicans wanted to keep Trump and get rid of Biden, and it wasn't like Democrats wanted to keep Biden and get rid of Trump. 56% of people wanted to get rid of both. Both of these candidates are so unlovable, and I think that Kamala Harris, she's kind of filling a void that a lot of especially younger voters have in excitement. I think that she has actually gotten young people excited to go out and vote and in part, I have to admit, it's because she is hand over fist winning the meme war.
Oh yeah, organically too.
And that makes young people go crazy. Young people go crazy over it.
Yeah, I don't even think so. I think we all remember in 2016 the cringe that was Hillary Clinton's Pokemon Go to the polls. That came off as extremely inorganic, but the memes,
everything she did came off as inorganic.
Yeah, of course, but the Kamala Harris memes, the brat, the coconuts, that to me it sprung overnight from random political accounts I follow on Twitter that have nothing to do with the Harris campaign, and they have embraced it.
You think you just fell from a coconut tree?
It's all wonderful, and it's like I said, the fact that it's organic is very important. I really like their strategy with it. And actually, what you said about younger voters, we can see the huge swings that are happening right now in terms of younger voters. I know that when it was Biden versus Trump, some polls, and you can doubt the accuracy of these polls and how they sample younger voters, but some polls were showing Trump with a lead among young voters. It's sometimes a double-digit lead. And now the polls I'm seeing
Yeah.
are the opposite in favor of Harris. Now she has a double-digit lead in a lot of polls against Donald Trump. Whether, again, we can quibble over the accuracy, but you're right. I think Kamala Harris has, simply by virtue of being born years later than Donald Trump, has really made inroads there.
Yeah, and the young people nowadays, we say the young people, like we aren't still in the under 30 age group, but young people in modern America, they do not care as much about these people. It used to be a huge focus in American politics, especially when you were voting on presidents. This person has experience. They are really experienced. They've done this before. They know what they're doing. The modern American who's our age in the under 30 age group, they do not give a rat's ass what a person's experience is. And the reason that they don't care about what a person's experience is because we've been living through what the experienced people do. We know that it doesn't work. We understand that it makes us hate our lives. We've seen how work culture has changed over the past 20 years or so, and we don't like it. I think that young people are motivated by change rather than experience.
I think that's true, but I also think, well, number one, I am not in that camp about experienced people. I actually do think experience is important, so I'm gonna throw that out there.
Oh, me too. Me too. Me too. I think that anybody who's in the know understands that experience does
For
matter.
sure, but I also want to add that I think in terms of young people, Kamala Harris does have a bit of a vulnerability, and we can talk about it a bit, but I think she has a risk of being weak on Israel and Palestine. I think,
Yeah, that's a big one for the young folks.
yeah, I don't know why, and this could be a whole podcast in and of itself. But
Yeah, let's save this topic as the major topic for our next
yeah,
one.
sounds good. But she's perceived as being part of the Biden administration, which a lot of young people feel has been weak on Gaza. I don't think that's accurate, but we can quibble about that, but that's how they feel. And there's certain VP picks that she could make that might weaken her even further in that. So I mean, I'm just really hoping she doesn't lose momentum due to Israel Palestine among young voters.
So you mentioned momentum.
Yeah,
I that is a big talking point for me. It's really easy to get caught in the weeds because we're so early on in the election cycle still right now. She only just became the candidate and everybody's freaking out. The memes are crazy. Everybody's super excited and high on Kamala and everything right now. It's popping off like crazy. But you have to keep in mind, especially with the young voters, the election is still three-ish months away. It's going to die down a little bit. We have to wait until we see the dust settle. Like, the excitement isn't going to last forever.
yeah. Some people are calling it a honeymoon period, and that could be the case, or it could be the case that she carries the momentum forward. But even in this period, it's still a nail biter. It's still going to be a close election. It's hard to say where things will go.
Yeah, I think that while the polls show it's a nail biter, we have to remember, guys. So just FYI to the whole audience, I'm going to use that master's degree to inform you right now. You have to assume whenever you read a poll that there is a reasonable margin of error. The reasonable margin of error is typically 3 to 5%, depending on the quality of the poll that you're looking at. If you're being super generous, you give 3%. If you're a little bit more iffy, you give closer to 5. So even if we look at the polls and we assume that there's a 3% margin of error, the true poll numbers theoretically could be even better for Kamala or even worse for Kamala. So it's possible that it's not even close right now or that it's really close.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be really close, or sorry, it could be not very close in either direction, right? Like, it could be that...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because they're both at 50%. So, like, the polls are showing them at pretty much 50-50. So what it could be with the margin of error adjusted, it could be that one of them is at 53 and the other's at 47. And it could be either of them. It goes both ways.
For sure, for sure.
ridiculously close election cycle for some reason.
Yeah, you'd think that with a convicted felon, insurrectionist, orange man, you think there wouldn't be.
I really think that they should not run on that. To be
I
completely honest,
agree. I agree. I'm just spitting facts.
I
But
think that the a big problem that the Democrats and especially Kamala Harris's campaign already have wandered into the realm of that I am not from a political strategy standpoint, I think it is the objectively incorrect decision to make. But I have seen them already starting to release ads that are like, he's a felon and she's a prosecutor. Who would you vote for? That's a terrible
oh
look.
no no
You do not
no,
want that
I
look.
completely
You
disagree.
don't want that look at all.
No, man, I think that in the post 2020 era, where people are a lot of like Midwestern normie voters are tired of what they perceive as like lawlessness, and I think running on this tough on crime thing and showing that your opponent is literally a felon, I think that's a wonderful contrast that kind of reminds people about like the law in this race.
You're making a huge assumption here, and that assumption is that people believe that him being a felon is a legitimate thing. There are many people, especially those Midwestern moderate voters that you're talking about, that believe that he was convicted of a felony only because of political
I'm
reasons.
sure those people
And we're not
exist.
talking about a small number of people here. Like, I would say it's most likely a majority of the likely voters in these
I
states.
think that's an assumption. I don't know how many of these people there are. I'll acknowledge I am doing a little bit of maybe vibes here. Unfortunately, the V word by saying that I that people want this tough on crime kind of prosecutor versus felon rhetoric, but I kind of think that I don't know. I do think that some Midwestern voters like to see that, but maybe you're right. Maybe there is
No,
some.
I agree with you. No. You're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying that you're wrong about the tough on crime being a good idea. I just think that it's a better idea when you're a Republican candidate than when you are a Democrat candidate because, quite frankly, the Democrat base and the slightly left leaning moderates, they don't like to hear the tough on crime rhetoric. Like, for example, there is a huge movement right now that is anti-police, anti-prosecutor, anti-government. And I really think that if she hammers it too hard, people are going to see right through it and be upset about it and see her as like an establishment candidate who's out to honestly, essentially I've heard this from people, essentially just lock up black people.
Look,
That's I have heard that from so many people on the left with this tough on crime stuff, and I don't want it to happen to her because, quite frankly, she has a history of getting involved in a bad way with black communities as a prosecutor. But honestly, I don't really think her record is that bad as a prosecutor. Yes, she did do some suspicious things, but quite frankly, there's no such thing as a prosecutor who doesn't do some suspicious things. Everybody makes mistakes.
well, there's a couple of points here that I kind of want to talk about. First, about how you feel the Democratic base is kind of against this tough on crime rhetoric. I think that's true, but I think it was more true in 2020. When she was running in the primary, and the racial issues were in the air, and all that stuff was happening, and Kamala, people were calling her Kamala as like an insult. I think we live in a very different reality now. I think a lot of that movement has sort of weakened. And I think that, if anything, Kamala might be a plus in today's political environment, particularly when, one of the biggest attack vectors from the right against Joe Biden is that he's not enforcing, border laws, right? So I think anything that Kamala can put out there that says, I enforce the laws, I'm the person who catches the criminals, will help. And we can talk about her record. I agree there are some spots there that aren't the best, but I also think there's a lot of good. She took
Me too.
she took on the big banks in California. We can talk.
Well, she tried to address
She
homelessness
did.
as
We
well.
can talk about the truancy thing. I think that might be a point of disagreement. But yeah, I think there's a lot to win with that message, and I guess we'll just see. I think the Democratic base, and this was kind of the second point, addressing your earlier statements, the Democratic base, I hate to say it, doesn't matter as much in this election.
I know. That's why I also included left-leaning moderates. And listen, what I want to make very clear here is that my opinion is not that all Democrats or all left-leaning people are these people who are anti-cop. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I do think that there is a demographic difference here that you're pointing out and I'm pointing out. So I have to say that the typical lower income, lower education level Democrat slash left leaning moderate, I think that they are really, really into this anti cop thing still. Like the people who are more impoverished and the people who are less educated, they are still all about the ACAB and burning shit down and going crazy and rioting in the streets. They are still really into that. And then the other side of the coin is that you have a lot of these moderates who are left leaning and Democrats who aren't into that. I think they are into the tough on crime stuff, but I think that that's more of your educated middle class and up type Democrat slash moderate that you're talking about right there. I think that the lower income people, lower education people, they still are really anti cop.
You think that like an average, let's say rural, maybe rural is not the right word, but let's say a moderate voter in Wisconsin, you think that they are very anti-cop?
I said moderate left leaning.
Okay, well, so I kind of think that the very left-leaning people don't really matter. I think they mostly live in like, big cities and stuff, on probably solidly blue areas
And suburbs.
Yeah, that's true. But my point is that they live in solidly blue areas, and we don't need those right now. We need Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and we should just say those three names over and over again because that's what we fucking need.
That's the math.
Yeah, that is the math. And I think those guys might be very receptive to a cop message. But, maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm just some dude.
All right, so I'm going to release a small amount of information about myself. Born and bred Pennsylvanian here. Yes, we ruin all of your election cycles, and yes, we are the permanent swing state. Haha, go fuck yourself. We are who we are. I will tell you that it is a 50-50 coin flip here in Pennsylvania.
For sure.
You don't get a lot of moderates here in Pennsylvania.
Really?
It's not. Yeah, I do not find very many moderates in my experience, at least. I find people. Well, let me put the asterisk on there. Since 2016, I have not found a lot of moderates in Pennsylvania. They are either very left or very right. Before 2016, it was much more of a moderate mix, but a cult of personality came along and made them pick sides, and it did not end well here in Pennsylvania, where we have a long history of establishing rivalries with one another.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is that it's not necessarily that the median Pennsylvania voter is moderate. Rather, what it is you have an equal number of far left, well, not far left, but, left-leaning and an equal number of right-leaning people, basically.
No, I don't think that's
Don't
the
think
case.
that's the case.
I think the problem in Pennsylvania is that nobody ever goes out and votes. Like the Democrats and the left-leaning people in Pennsylvania, they are the type of left-leaning people who really have a tendency to think that voting doesn't matter and they don't hit the
First of all,
polls.
I just want to say, fuck those people. Worst kind of person.
Agreed.
You should always
filth,
vote.
garbage, trash. Go vote.
Always fucking vote. The meme that your parents told you when you were a kid that, people fought and died for your right to vote. Guess what? That meme is fucking true. Go fucking vote, you lazy assholes.
Even if you don't think about it like that, it's you want to preserve your right to complain. Okay, you don't get to complain if you don't go out and vote.
If you did not vote if you're on the left and you did not vote in 2016, I'll have you know it is literally your fault that we lost abortion rights in this country. You are to blame.
No, it's not their fault. That's Ruth Bader Ginsburg's
It's
fault.
also her fault, but it's also people who didn't vote.
Honestly, all right, this is going to sidetrack us for a minute here, but now that you've brought up the topic of abortion and Roe v. Wade getting overturned, I just want to throw out there my opinion that Ruth Bader Ginsburg Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I don't know where the junior came from. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has committed the ultimate and original cardinal sin when it comes to abortion rights. You would have abortion rights right now if it was not for Ruth Bader Ginsburg holding out because she wanted the first woman president to pick the next Supreme Court justice. That was stupid. It was a bad call, and it was a gamble that cost every American woman the right to an abortion.
I agree that she has a lot of the blame. I do want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, was the overturning of Roe v. Wade a 6-3 decision or a 5-4? Because
I don't remember, but if Obama were able to get all of the potential picks he could have gotten in, he would have been able to squeeze in 3 justices.
Yeah, so that's another thing. 2 out of 3 of Trump's judicial, Supreme Court appointments were full of shenanigans, right? Like you had they literally stole the spot from from Merrick Garland, gave it to Neil Gorsuch. They stole it, and of course RBG being stubborn and not retiring when Obama asked her to.
You mean a moron? It's okay to call a spade a spade. She acted like a fucking idiot, and it cost us abortion.
Yeah, if you want to look at it that way, there is almost no single person responsible for setting women back in this country than Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
I agree,
but
she was terrible. Hold on. I do want to say though, I'm not a hater. This was one really awful decision. Like, most of the stuff that she did was really, really good throughout her lifespan.
Yeah, I mean,
but this one thing was like such a black mark on her record. Like, it honestly, when everything is said and done and 20 years from now people are looking back at Ruth Bader Ginsburg's career, they are going to remember one thing. She held out her seat, and it's the reason that people don't have abortion access. That is what she is going to actually be remembered for.
It's true. She has a great record otherwise, but unfortunately her legacy will be, her obstinacy, because it's the one that affected people most.
Yeah, I mean, like, she was even one of the people who voted to get gay marriage rights.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
She won't be remembered for that.
No.
She'll be remembered for her impact on abortion rights, and that sucks. It does suck. I feel for her, like her legacy, that is, in that. But at the same time, fuck you, man. It's your fault.
Yes, but at the same time, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is dead. We're crying over spilt milk at this point. The message I really want to hammer home is, if you didn't fucking vote, it's your fault. So I think people need to...
Yeah, haha.
Yeah.
Go vote, fuckers.
True. But yeah, so back to your point. So you're saying that here in Pennsylvania, there are not that many people on the left who vote. Is that what you're alleging?
It's not that there's none. It's just that the overwhelming majority of people in Pennsylvania are left-leaning, but it doesn't matter because like 40% of those left-leaning people just don't vote.
Right. Yeah, I think that's going to be a big challenge for any Democratic nominee, of course.
Well, that's why the excitement around Kamala is so important to me, at least. Like, I see that if she can keep this excitement going at the level that it is now, going into November, I legitimately think you might see record turnout in Pennsylvania.
I hope so. And, maybe this is a good segue into our next topic, which is the Veep Stakes.
I think it is.
Yeah. You want to...
Come on down for the Kamala Veep Stakes.
You want to get us started on this, Tom?
Well, you have a couple of major players in the Kamala Veep Stakes this time around. First up to the plate is Josh Shapiro
Ooh,
of
yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Shapiro,
Woo, we love him. Yeah, Shapiro. But then we also have Mark Kelly of Arizona.
Ooh, he's up in space. He's up in space.
Boo, 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 boo. He's not from Pennsylvania. Boo. We also have Mr. Bashir of Kentucky.
The whitest man.
Yeah, he really is the whitest guy on the planet, though. And then pretty much everybody else doesn't matter, to be completely honest with you.
Well, I heard some rumors today that she's looking at Pete Buttigieg for firstly.
I really hope not. Please, God.
And for blanking out on the first name here, but Waltz. Not sure.
Oh, yeah, Waltz.
Yeah. So
he's from Virginia, isn't he?
I think that might be true. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know much about him, to be honest.
I think he's the one from Virginia.
I did want to talk a little bit about our buddy Josh here.
He's my pick. Please,
my pick,
for
too.
the love of Christ, pick him.
So I personally think he is the strongest pick for a couple reasons. One, he might add an extra point or two to Pennsylvania for the Democrats. And, if you believe Nate Silver's election model, Pennsylvania is the state most likely to decide the election. So,
as always.
Yeah, that's important. However, I want to hear what you think about this. I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. I heard a point today from somebody on Twitter that, picking Josh Shapiro might shore up some support in Pennsylvania, but it might come at a cost to support in Michigan, where there, for example, is a large Muslim population that is very angry about Israel and Palestine. And, that's an issue where Josh Shapiro is not seen as, very, very on the left there. What do you think about that?
Let me ask you this. I'm going to respond to your question with another question. Do you think that those people who are planning to vote for Kamala Harris, those Islamic people, do you think that there is literally any chance that they are going to flip to Trump?
No, but I think there is a chance they'll sit it out.
Then we're good.
Well, no, but if they sit it out, that's...
I don't think they'll sit it out. I don't think they will. Because while it is the case that the Israel-Palestine stuff is a hot-button issue right now, if you actually look at the record, Trump has had so many more antagonistic behaviors in the Middle East involving Israel than any other president in history.
Of course.
The dude constantly antagonizes everybody in the area. Like the thing with moving the capital of Israel to Jerusalem, like as the officially recognized capital of Israel, it was a meaningless proposition that benefited the United States in literally no way. All that it did was piss off everybody else in the Middle East. It just made them mad. That's the only thing that he accomplished by doing that. And I think that you're not like, dude, these Islamic people aren't stupid. You're not going to just tell them, oh, well, Josh Shapiro, he's not tough on Israel-Palestine, because they know that Trump is even worse.
I agree that they know that. However, I've seen a lot of rhetoric on the left lately. I saw the most stupid tweet ever, which is that you can't double a genocide.
Oh.
You literally can't double a genocide. It's called you kill twice the people, right? So yes, it can get worse. Even if you believe that there's a genocide happening, which I don't, first of all. Even if you believe that, you can actually make it worse. So Donald Trump is absolutely worse for Palestine.
Hold on, wait, hold on, slow down. Let's go back to this.
Sure.
Hold on. I'm trying to get it back together so I can answer my question.
Go ahead.
You're telling me that they think that a genocide is happening and can't possibly get worse?
Yeah, that is actually what I've heard. This tweet literally says you can't double genocide.
That just doesn't make any fucking sense at all. What do they mean? Are they so when they say genocide, do they think that means that they've already accomplished the complete and total destruction of the ethnicity?
I think that's what they're
think
intimating.
That's what genocide means?
I do think that's what they're intimating.
Okay, if that's what they're saying and their assumption of what a genocide is, what they're defining it as, they're right under their own definition if that's the case, but I think that that's a horrible definition to use, and you've really watered down the value of the word genocide at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, let's be clear. Trump very recently said he wants Israel to, quote, finish the job. I don't know what that means, but given his record,
It means he's going to give them as many guns
yeah,
as possible.
he did say that. He does want to arm them to the teeth and, full support for whatever the fuck is going on and whatever the fuck they want to do.
Yeah. This dichotomy that some people are trying to present where it's, oh, you either vote for Kamala who supports Israel or they're going to kill him, they're going to kill him. Both of the presidential candidates are pro-Israel. You're not going to get what you want no matter who you vote for. Even if you abstain from the election, we're still going to be pro-Israel here in the United States.
Yeah, and I mean, look. I think Kamala Harris has a very reasonable position on Israel-Palestine. I think she supports. She has come out in favor of a two-state solution, which is probably the only actual real solution to this.
Oh, I disagree.
Okay, well we can argue about that maybe in our next podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna have I promise all listeners we will have a episode focused solely on the Israel-Palestine
it'll
conflict.
be spicy for sure.
But just for the record, I'm a one-state supporter.
Okay, I am not. So we can definitely argue about that next episode. But look. You can't even say that she's like anti-Semitic. Her husband is Jewish. I mean, it's very clear that she supports Israel in a with caution, right? Like she's definitely more pro-Palestine than maybe the Biden administration was publicly.
Who, Kamala?
That's my understanding. Yes, I think she has given more forceful statements on what Israel is doing in Gaza than Biden has.
Young people aren't going to buy that.
No, of course
that's
not.
A crock of shit.
Of course they're not going to buy that.
That is politics speak for shut the fuck up. I'm going to do what I want.
Could be. But I also think that you just look at Trump, the guy who says that we should, bomb the families of terrorists.
The comparison is awful. Trump is obviously worse on this. For Palestinians, at least.
Yeah. I mean, you can double a genocide.
For Israelis, he's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another thing, I don't mean to steal your thunder really quick, but there is something else that I am worried about a Josh Shapiro pick.
What's that?
For the Josh Shapiro pick, something that I am a little bit worried about is that voters aren't dumb, okay? So one of the things that I'm concerned about is that she would name Josh Shapiro the pick, and every Pennsylvanian goes, oh, wow, she's trying to buy our fucking vote. That's stupid. I don't like that at all. I think that it would... no, I know. You have to be in the mentality of a Pennsylvanian to understand this.
Ooh.
Pennsylvanians do not like being told what to do. They will do the opposite of what you command them to.
So I agree.
And if voters see through that, and that's what they think she is doing, voters in Pennsylvania will turn against her very quickly.
So I agree with you that there is there's a certain Pennsylvanian attitude, for sure. I will say that I did read an article.
I love that my vote matters.
I know. Too much, honestly. But I did read an article today from my boy Nate Silver. Love that guy. I'll shout him out. Not that he needs a shout out.
Yeah, he's all right, I guess. Okay.
He did talk a little bit about what kind of bumps do VP picks produce in their home states. And basically, through his simulation, he thinks that his model, and I should be clear, this is the old Biden model. He has not released a Harris model yet. But he thinks that a VP pick from Pennsylvania is worth, it has like a 1% chance of producing a like half a point to 1 point difference, if I'm getting those last numbers right. Which is not a high percentage. It might not do anything in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and then once you add in the possibility of statistical error, it becomes almost non-existent. The thing that I'm most worried about for Kamala right now, because she's riding so high, is pissing somebody off. All she has to do is not piss people off. That's it.
Yeah, that's true. And, it's easier said than done. I mean, I think we all remember
It really
Hillary
is.
Clinton's basket of deplorables. We remember Mitt
Oh,
Romney's
Jesus.
47% comment. Very easy to just say
And
something.
his $10,000 bet.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that J.D. Vance seems to be doing all the pissing off, himself.
I was about to bring him up. I don't. Okay, so just for the listeners, we are going to try and be. At least I will. I don't. Anthony can speak for himself. I'm going to try as be as ridiculously unbiased as possible when I talk about strategy. This isn't going to be something that's as opinion based. This is going to be strategy based. Or well, when I say opinion based, it's based on my opinion of their strategy, not my political bias opinion. But I want to say that I think Trump's pick of JD Vance might be the strategically worst VP pick in modern history. He is so ridiculously horrible that he has actually made Trump go down in the state of Ohio, which is JD Vance's home
I
state.
love that.
He is that bad. It's like Trump drank poison when he made him the VP pick. It was just it's just one of the biggest disasters that I've seen the Republican Party go through in the past 20 years.
I saw that CNN reported that he has the lowest favorability of literally any vice president in modern history. That's lower than Sarah Palin.
Oh, ever now.
Yeah.
Last I looked was Sarah Palin.
Well, so it was the numbers that CNN were showing were like the post-convention numbers. So Sarah Palin actually, when I saw them, I was surprised. She had a really good post-convention number. Maybe it only fell off later, but post-convention, J.D. Vance has the worst VP numbers ever.
That is music.
Yeah, and I mean, there's all the speaking of organic memes, the couch fucking, the dolphin porn.
Oh, dude, him having sex with the couch is the most insane thing I have. Okay, so for those of you out there who do not know what the fuck we're talking about, I promise we're not nuts. This guy fucked the couch.
My understanding was that it's not real, but
no, I don't think it's real either.
Yeah.
But he seems like the kind of guy who would fuck a couch. That's
Agreed.
how unlikable he is.
Yeah, people believe it. I mean, even if you know it's not real, the fact that he seems like the kind of guy, Yeah.
Ugh.
There's an old story about LBJ wanting to come up with some ridiculous rumor to attack one of his opponents, and his advisor's like, LBJ, bro, that's not even true. And LBJ says, I know, but I want to hear that fucker deny it. And I think that's what's happening with J.D. Vance right now.
Yeah, Dude, JD Vance is not coming at this from a position of power. He is one of those people. I don't know how familiar you are with his political opinions, but he is one of the people who is still really hardcore about abortion and really hardcore about gay marriage. So those two topics, being against those in this current political climate, you're practically putting a bullseye on your forehead and asking the Secret Service to shoot you.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't even talking.
Who the fuck is still anti-gay marriage that's actually a political figure?
Actually, even
come
the
on.
new Republican platform has even softened a little bit on gay marriage. They removed some language about marriage being between a man and a woman. And they also removed language about abortion that makes it a little bit more vague. So for him to be that strong, really stupid.
It's just so ridiculously unpopular to be pro-life right now. And however you feel about that issue, that's fine. That's whatever. Like I said, this isn't what my opinion on abortion is. This is about the political strategy decisions that the Trump campaign is making here. Why would you put somebody in that position who has such a strong opinion on abortion and then let him talk about it?
Yeah, especially when it's your weakest issue.
If that's going to be his opinion on abortion, just shut the fuck up.
Absolutely. It's stupid. And this isn't even addressing his childless cat lady comments.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. And the fact, did you hear his...
It's almost like he's trying to ruin the campaign. It might be an inside job at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they saw that they lost because of suburban women, and they decided to piss off all the suburban women for the next election. It's insane.
Yeah, another thing about him that's particularly interesting and horrible about J.D. Vance, it is literally the first time in my lifetime that I have ever seen somebody who is a military veteran that is hated by members of the military. Like, military vets hate this guy.
Yeah.
And normally they stick together like oil, but dude,
Yeah.
they hate him.
Yeah, he's just a horrible choice. And did you hear the story about how he got chosen? The rumors that are going right now?
I'm not sure. You're gonna have to. This sounds exciting. No, I haven't heard anything.
Supposedly, Donald Trump was going to pick Doug Burgum, who is a relatively safe
Much
choice.
better pick.
Much better pick. Safe, probably the most, the best choice for electability, for sure. But he got into his room with his two, let's just say, very special sons, Eric and Don Jr. And supposedly they went, and this is the quote that I heard, ballistic in favor of J.D. Vance. They were talking about how, Doug Burgum doesn't get him anything, that it's got to be J.D., J.D.
Man, the first time he's ever listened to his kids in his entire life, and they ruined his campaign.
Yeah, and I 100% think it's because Don Jr. and Eric are probably cozy with, like, Peter Thiel and all those, like, weird tech people.
Oh, dude, I hate Peter Thiel.
Yeah, he's we could do a whole
Ruining
thing
working
on that,
culture
yeah.
one step at a time.
I would love to do an episode on really Peter Thiel and that brand of Silicon Valley guy. I think it would be a really interesting.
So you'd have more knowledge of that being from computer science field than me. I have a problem with rich people who don't support increasing taxes on rich people.
Yeah, I also have a problem.
It's like asking a drug addict if they should go to rehab.
Yeah, for sure. And he also has like very weird social views. Oh yeah, that reminds me. We mentioned the childless cat lady comments from JD Vance. I saw a video of JD Vance arguing that parents should get an additional vote for each child they have. This guy,
Whoa!
It wasn't just a misspeak. This guy believes this shit. This is like Handmaid's Tale.
That's a
shit.
horrible opinion.
Horrible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, hold on though. Let's be real here. Especially as a Republican, that's a horrible opinion.
Oh yeah. You want to talk about birth rates in this country? I don't think they'll be very happy.
Yeah, I don't think he'd like the results of his own actions at that point.
No, definitely.
But I mean, hey, one of my most liberal stances is probably how I feel about parents involved in their child's life. But we'll save that for a future episode because I could go off for 30 minutes on just how much I think most parents are dog shit at what they do and shouldn't have children. So we'll save that for a different time.
Yeah, I think that could be a very interesting episode for sure. But yeah, JD Vance is just the worst choice. Rumors are that Trump is scrambling to see if he can replace him. He probably can as long as no ballot deadlines have passed, but we'll see if he does it.
Dude, Trump's campaign has a really big hill that they have to climb now.
Yeah.
I think that he's still neck and neck with Kamala right now in most people's minds, but I think that we're seeing the zeitgeist of the times right now. I think that another thing, we were just talking about the Pennsylvania moderates who are going to be upset at Kamala for, like, they'll see through Josh Shapiro or whatever. I think that those same group of Pennsylvanian voters that we were talking about there, they are the same type of people who, when Trump lost and then he decided, I'm going to run again for this upcoming 2024 season, I think that this group of people looked at him and said, what do you mean, dude? You already lost. Come on. Why are you being a bitch? Just stop.
Yeah.
It's time for you to go. You lost.
It looks bad. It looks weak.
I think that that's very much the attitude of a lot of Pennsylvanians.
I think that's accurate. I really believe that. Listen, we are already at almost 50 minutes in. Do we want to go into our hot takes of the show?
All right. So, yeah, the next part of the show, and we're going to be doing this every show, is we don't know in advance the hot take that our co-host has chosen to talk about. And we are going to be bringing a fresh hot take to talk about with one another every time. So, Anthony, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
You can start, Tom.
Okay. Now, putting me right on the hot seat first. I like it. Bold move. But I want to talk about shopping malls
Oh
and
God. Oh
economics.
God.
I know, you've heard me go off hours on end about this. But I think I might finally have a reasonable way to structure what I want that will grow the economy immensely. So, to lay out the premise of what I'm about to talk about, I am a big fan of shopping malls. I think that they are focused hubs of economic development. I think that they help grow the economy immensely. I think that they present excellent opportunities for startup small businesses in the form of kiosks and low rent areas where they can gather lots of foot traffic as opposed to e-commerce where you have to pay an arm and a leg in order to get a single customer through advertising. Been there, done that. Just trust me on it. And one other thing is restaurants. For example, did you know that something like 70% of all restaurants are within 10 to 15 miles radius of a shopping
I
mall?
did not know that.
Just for example. And another thing, 63% of all adults currently, according to the survey that I was looking at, 63% of all adults say that at one point in their life they needed a job in a restaurant in order to meet ends meet.
Really?
63% of adults, yes. Now, that is an impressively large number of people who depended on those restaurants. Those restaurants depend on the foot traffic from the shopping mall in order to function. I think that shopping malls are an important cornerstone of the entire American economy. I know that they're super consumerist, and some people are just against that off of rip, but you cannot deny me that shopping malls are important to the economic growth of the United States of America, and especially in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they were the hubs of economic activity in the United States. Period. End of story. And I think that it's time we bring them back because recently, over the past 20 years or so, malls have started to die. Everybody's noticed it. Everybody's seen them quickly collapsing. We've seen it. And quite honestly, I think it's just bad. They give us all kinds of benefits. They give us economic hubs. Small business startups can be in there. They also give teenagers places where they can have their first work experiences, learn some responsibility, some discipline. And they also give people a social area where they can go, especially young people, and they can learn how to actually socialize like real human beings in public instead of learning how to socialize from TikTok and YouTube pranksters. That would be a fantastic world to live in. I'm sure most of you would agree. So, my proposal to help out these shopping malls can come in two forms. One, we provide direct subsidies to anybody who pays rent in a shopping mall facility, including the shopping mall owner. Just give them a subsidy every month just to keep them open, just to keep them employing people, just to keep it thriving and surviving. Two, I think that we should take this opportunity to lower some taxes that these people who operate out of shopping malls have to pay. Like, for example, maybe Macy's just has to pay a little bit less in taxes because, quite frankly, they contribute so much of a huge amount of economic development to the communities that they're put in, and they make malls possible. Anchor stores like Macy's make malls possible. Let's lower their tax burden a little bit, encourage them to stay open, and encourage them to keep employing people. And that is my hot take.
All right, Tom. I'm not going to push back on the social and psychological benefits of shopping malls because, I'm all for having, third places. I think we're two online now. Agree with you there. There's a lot of great benefits that come from thriving, active shopping malls in terms of our social lives. But I do want to quibble with you a bit on the economic benefits. And look, I'm not an economist. I never really studied economics formally, but it does seem to me like if shopping malls were so important to the economy, they wouldn't be dying in so much of America. And furthermore, kind of piggybacking on that point, if we were to spend money subsidizing, shopping mall stores, who's to say that those businesses are even producing value? What if they're not? They just don't have enough customers. Then aren't we wasting money by keeping them alive with zero customers? Basically, couldn't they be doing something more productive in society than running a store with no customers? What are your answers to those questions?
Well, you could easily create some kind of litmus test to gauge whether or not somebody should have it. I'm not saying give every single store that opens some fat subsidy. I think it should probably be based on customers that you bring in or something along those lines, revenue, employees that you have. There's a whole varying range of different ways you could split it up. I don't think that just own business in shopping mall, now you qualify, is a good way of applying this, but I want some kind of subsidy to be available for those businesses that are trying to get off and start in shopping malls. And also on the, you said you wanted to quibble with me over the how economically relevant it is. How relevant do you think having skilled and trained labor forces is?
Yeah, but what if the labor force is evolving and shopping malls are no longer good training for the way the market is?
There will always be room for unskilled laborers.
Yes, but that unskilled labor might look like something else and not necessarily shopping mall kind of labor, right? I have no idea what I do think the economy is evolving, and I have no idea what the labor force of the next 20 years is going to look like.
Sure, but I do not think that there is any other way that you could possibly provide that many entry level jobs to people at that price point that easily. Like for example, where are all of the like for your first job, where is everybody going to work? You have to have a first job. Where are people going to work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really tough question. I'd love maybe in the future, maybe we can
Shopping
have
malls.
maybe we could have a guest. It would be great if we can get like an actual economist on the show to talk about this take. Cause
Oh, well, that would be
that would be
phenomenal, but
awesome.
I think you're kind of shooting for the stars on that one.
Maybe. But my gut feeling is that I don't like to subsidize things that are failing naturally unless there's a really, really good reason. And you do bring up a good point. Look, we are too online. We don't have real spaces anymore. And maybe it is worth some government investment to keep spaces alive where people can commingle for everyone's sanity, you know?
Yeah. And on top of that, you did skip over my one point. Having malls makes starting a small business so much easier. It's so much easier to start a small business with like a kiosk or something like that, where you pay $500 to $1,000 a month to go there and hawk your wares, than it is to hopefully spend 10 grand and get one customer on
You know,
there.
I don't have any studies to support this, so take what I say with a grain of salt. And obviously,
And also, it depends on the product you're selling,
right.
obviously.
And obviously, you do have more experience in e-commerce than I do. But to me, having to have a brick and mortar storefront or a kiosk sounds like, just intuitively, sounds like a higher barrier to entry than like a digital storefront on Etsy. Like it might be more successful on average to have that brick and mortar, but in terms of in terms of barriers, I don't know if you can get any lower.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the person who wants to just have a side business as like a little thing. I'm talking about somebody who intends to start a business and make it their career.
My gut feeling is that it's very easy to do that online if you're looking at the right thing. But like I said, I don't have any
I
studies
think it
on that.
depends. It's just built in. If you have foot traffic in a mall, it's just built in.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right
true.
there.
But there is a greater upfront cost there too.
Yeah, of course there is, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what you're selling, your customer acquisition cost online could be higher than your rent for your kiosk at a mall.
Well, Tom, I do think that is a very hot take, and I would love to delve into it
Yeah,
more.
people hate on shopping malls.
And I would love to provide my hot take now before we close out the show.
Go for it. Go for it.
So there's been a lot of talk lately in the news about how the Democratic Party chose Kamala Harris and whether or not it is fair to primary voters and whether or not it's fair
Ah.
to to the people at large. I'm here to say, fuck that entirely. I think we should eliminate partisan primary elections
Oh,
completely. That is my spicy hot take. And let me tell you why. So
oh
first,
man, you better have a good explanation for what I'm hearing in my ear holes right now.
first, I think partisan primary elections, I think they encourage extremists. I think that if you're, and polarization,
Well, yeah.
I think that if you're constantly having to appeal to the base, and if both parties are doing this, they're just going to, over time, drift further left and right. And you know what? I'm a moderate. I don't like that. I don't like extremists. Number two, the primary election system is relatively new in this country. I believe it started in the 70s. For some reason, the year 74 is jumping out at me, but that might not be true. But it started in the 70s, and all the best presidents of the United States have been picked by the sort of backroom dealings, the shadowy negotiations. You want to talk about FDR, you want to talk about JFK, LBJ, you want to talk about Teddy Roosevelt. The best presidents in U.S. history were picked not through primary elections, but through shadowy backroom dealings. And is there room for corruption there? Yes. And you know what? We need some transparency in the system. I'm not saying we don't need transparency, but I don't think we need to vote on the nominees in parliamentary systems. In the UK, for example, if you're a card-carrying member of the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party, Labour Party or the Conservative Party, you don't get to pick your party leader, your nominee, essentially, for prime minister. The party does that. And I think that is a better system for better quality presidents. I don't always think that more democracy is good. I am definitely pro-democracy. I like voting. But in terms of primary elections, I feel like it's just not necessary for high quality candidates. What do you think about that?
All right. So I don't disagree with you entirely. I think that there are definitely advantages to a parliamentary system, and something that does really bother me about American politics is the over celebritizing of the politicians that we do have. Like, for example, everybody in the country knows who Nancy Pelosi is, but if we had more of a parliamentary system, nobody would even know who the fuck she was.
I don't necessarily need a
But
parliamentary system. I'm just talking about the
at the
candidate.
same time, hold on.
Sure.
At the same time, I think that you're right that it is the case that the shady backroom dealings have led to a lot of people who are very, very good in presidential capacities. And I do really like the idea of voting for a party instead of a person. But at the same time, I think that there needs to just be a way that they can revamp the primaries that make them better rather than just getting rid of them entirely, because I think that the primary process is very good. I like the primaries. I like participating in them. I like vetting a candidate to see how well they do in debates. I like seeing how they want to structure their campaign. I like seeing the way that they present issues and how they would solve them. I think that it's all part of competent governance to get like a dog and pony show essentially before you get to the real WWE championship match.
Uh, I th-
I think that that's
I
important.
think you provide a good example of a benefit of primaries. And actually, if you heard the exact, look, I did give the most hyperbolic version of my take, but if you heard my actual wording, I said we should eliminate partisan primary elections entirely. And you know what? A good compromise that fits within that is just make every state's primary an open primary. Let Republicans vote in
Yeah, I
Democratic
think that's a
primaries.
good
Let
solution.
Democrats vote in Republican primaries. Yeah, I think anything that, yeah.
Another No, what were you
I was
saying?
going to say, I think that anything that reduces the polarization in this country would be good. Yeah, but yeah. The other thing is, I'm just not convinced that the skills required to run a good campaign, like a primary campaign, are the same skills that lead to good governance.
Oh, of course they're not. Of course they aren't the same thing. But being able to think of it this way. The president is a person who is going to be the ambassador in chief as well. So he needs to be the type of person who can go overseas and convince other politicians exactly the same way that he convinced his voters.
That's true.
It is an important element of governance.
I do think that someone overseas, like a leader, is going to have more information than your average primary voter. So I don't know how relevant that is.
I would hope.
But yeah, that's my spicy take for the day, and I'll defend it.
Yeah. I another thing that I did want to say about because you raised two issues there. Should we have primaries, and should people be pissed off? So, oh, and one other thing. I think a major difference between way back in the day when you were talking about these best presidents who were coming out of shadowy dealings in the back rooms and stuff, those in those elections, there was also one other thing going on. There were actual third party choices.
Not really.
Like legitimate third
No.
parties. Dude, in some of the early 1900s elections, third party candidates actually won entire states.
That might be true, but in terms of presidential politics, definitely not true.
No. I mean presidential electoral college votes.
Yeah, that is true, but look, my knowledge of history is that the only real third-party candidate that made like a big difference, and maybe I'm wrong, is Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moose Party. And look, he didn't win. In fact, I think he...
Yeah, he made a huge difference.
He made a huge difference in terms of the Republican lost, and the Democrat won there. I think it was Woodrow Wilson won.
Yes.
So, I don't know how big third parties really come into play here.
I'm just saying that's one piece of it, is that the third party options in the US right now are so ridiculously weak, they may as well not even be on a ticket.
That's true. That actually is true.
Which makes the primary process, like you talked about, more extreme, because I think the presence of a legitimate third party candidate scares moderates that are registered into going and voting in the primaries as well.
That could be true. But
like it's just an element of it, I'm saying, not the whole thing. And one other thing that I did want to say about this is about should people be pissed off about it? Yeah, I think they should. I'm kind of pissed off about it, to be completely honest with you.
Happened.
And the reason that I'm pissed off about it is because the Democrats are presenting her as this person is a former prosecutor attorney general who is extremely tough on crime. She plays by the rules. Rules are her thing. She abides by the rule of law and wants to make things better for everybody. But then they turn around and on the same coin said, we set up these rules for primaries and how they should work and what the processes should be. And we didn't follow them ourselves. Ha ha. That's just for poor people.
I completely disagree. I think, Joe Biden basically won the primary. I mean, he did not basically. He did win the primary. And Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and he gave his electoral votes to Kamala Harris. I know.
She's his vice president. And that's kind of what is the natural thing to happen when a president steps out.
I didn't vote for Kamala Harris in the primary.
Yes, you did. You voted
for Joe Biden.
A Biden-Kamala Harris ticket.
No, I voted for Joe Biden.
Was Kamala Harris's name not on there?
Of course it was, as vice president.
Well, when you vote for a presidential ticket, you vote with the knowledge that if something happens to the president, like if he becomes unfit to serve in some way, his vice president will take over. So
I didn't vote for him to become president. I voted for him to become the Democratic nominee.
I'm just talking about what is...
And he did not become the Democratic nominee.
I think you are... what's the word here? I think you're nitpicking a bit here.
Focused on the rules.
No, I think the rules are actually that technically, any delegate can actually switch even without anyone telling them to. Those are the actual rules.
I know.
So
yes, those are the actual rules. But if we're being completely real here, that it just rubs people the wrong way. And it rubs people the wrong way because they didn't follow their own rules.
I think they followed their rules, and I think it shouldn't rub people the wrong way, and I think the right thing happened. And that's my take.
Yeah, but even if you think that the right thing happened and you think that people shouldn't be bothered by that or they shouldn't rub them the wrong way, they are rubbed the wrong way. It is a bad
It is
look.
possible for feelings to be wrong, and we're giving hot takes here.
I mean, mine wasn't wrong. My shopping malls need to be a big thing.
All right, Tom. Well, I think,
My opinion was objectively correct.
of course it was, but I think we're past the hour mark here. You want to sign us off?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna ask you if you wanted to continue down some other topics or if you wanted to end it
Yeah,
here.
let's save those
I think
for
that
later.
maybe ending it here is okay with me if you want to,
Let's save the other
but
topics
I'm
for
down to keep
later.
going. Honestly,
I think we can save them for later.
okay, I think so too, since they're completely different from what we're currently talking
Yeah.
about. All right, well, this was the first episode of the Coconut Tree Podcast. We're going to be doing this. Well, I'm moving into a new house very soon here, so it might be a little bit more infrequent than I would like, but we will be consistently uploading episodes of our podcast. And we hope you enjoyed, honestly. Hit the follow, subscribe, plus sign, heart button, like, emoji, comment down below buttons
And yeah,
for whatever platform you're listening on.
thanks for joining us. Hoping to talk to you guys soon again. And see you later, Tom.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.